Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is part 8 of my midterm extravaganza. There's probably going to be a little more than 9 parts, considering there are quite a few toss-up races that I want to do deeper dive in. So for now, we have the mountain subdivision. Really, at the tall end of the interstate divisions, there is a distinct lack of imagination in the names. We have Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming to discuss. It's going to be a little longer because of a lot of stuff to discuss. House races, Senate races, governor's races, ballot measures, you know the thing. All of which are present in Arizona, and there are a bunch of down ballot races. So first, the most important one I think this cycle, at least for the governor's races, aside from Pennsylvania. Arizona, Kari Lake is running against Katie Hobbs, and she's currently running away with it. Lake is leading by about 2 points in the aggregate. Republicans are underestimated in the state, so you need to take that into account when it comes to polling. Make sure that you don't underestimate the Republicans and their chances. Lake is performing in line with the expectations. He won every single county in the primary election, so I think that's a really good performance, especially in Maricopa, where they usually vote for the guys that want to bomb Iran, and she obviously doesn't, so it was a surprise that she won Maricopa County. So it's going to be a narrow victory for Kari Lake, and let's see if she can turn the state around and make it just like Florida, a booming Republican state once more. Senate race, Mark Kelly against Blake Masters, and then you have clown Mark Victor. This was a really funny debate, in my opinion. And Blake Masters absolutely crushed it, and both Marks were acting like buffoons on stage. So if you haven't watched the Senate debate, please do. It's absolutely hilarious. Masters is over from polling. Mark Kelly won narrowly in the special election, and I believe there have been some shenanigans, particularly in Maricopa County. Because where else? Currently, Kelly is leading in aggregate polling. Republicans are underestimated. It's significantly tightening over the past weeks. And I think it's a toss-up. At the moment, it's going to be less than 2 points. Probably a few recounts here and there. And in the end of the day, we'll figure out who wins. And it may come as a surprise, but considering that both individuals are running below 50 points, it's probably going to be that the challenger wins. So Blake Masters, probably. I think it's funny because previous cycle around, Mark Kelly was leading Martha McSally by like 10 points in the aggregate polling, and then only wins by 2. So take that into account. First district, David Schweikert. So there's a fun thing about Arizona with this redistricting. They basically gave every single individual district a new name, because why not? It's not like I have to do this kind of analysis. Schweikert, he won by 11, then 5. It's going to be a narrow victory because this is basically Chandler, so northeastern Phoenix and suburbs. It's going to be a little narrower than polling expects. I think it's about 5 points, maybe a little over 5, depending on the national environment, which will be a separate video down the line. Second district, Tom O'Halloran against Eli Crane. This district moved from R+2 to R+8, and considering O'Halloran won by about 3 points last time around, essentially it's going to flip. If 538 has it as a Crane victory, then you know that it's going to flip, because they, again, I have to reiterate, 538 overestimates Democrats by at least 5 points. I will reiterate it until the day I die, because it's a fact and everyone needs to know that. Third district, Ruben Gallego. So this is Tucson area. Safe victory for this guy. We don't even have to discuss that. Greg Stanton, this is another Phoenix district. Went from D plus 9 to D plus 1. Basically it's a toss-up district for this census cycle. And I will treat it as such. It's a toss-up officially. I think it's going to be a narrow victory because of incumbency. And Stanton has not switched parties, as far as I know. I don't think he would be welcome in the Republican Party, so... yeah, that's basically it. For now it's a toss-up. Maybe next cycle is going to flip, or the one after it. We don't know yet, depending on the size of the wave. Arizona's 5th, Andy Biggs. He's leading big in the polls. Not going to be a challenge. Easy victory. 6th district. This one belongs to Ann Kirkpatrick. She's retiring for like the 3rd time. Funny how that works. It went from D plus 2 to R plus 7. So Republican leading district. I think Juan Ciscomani is going to run away with it. He's going to win. And he's going to keep the seat for at least a few years. Probably going to win again 2024, and then we'll see what about the midterms, depending on who wins the presidency. 7th district, Raul Grijalva. I'm horrible with Latin names. Safe district, this is like West Phoenix. Debbie Lasko, she's running unopposed. Paul Gosar is running unopposed. Both of them are going to win easily. So, for now, I'm going to treat it as a toss-up between Kelly and Masters. There are going to be 2 house flips. So it's going to be a 6-3 at least, and there is a chance that it becomes a 7-2 margin for the Republicans. When it comes to the House, for now I'm going to treat it as a 50-50 between 2 Democrats and a split delegation. And Carrie Lake will succeed. Mr. Doozy. 10 ballot measures. Quite a lot. And I promise you this is the largest of the bunch that we are going to have in the last 2 videos. At least if I remember everything correctly. That's a bit vague sometimes. First one, legislative ballot initiatives. So basically, if a ballot initiative is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, then the state legislature would like to be able to repeal or amend the ballot initiative. I think that's a great idea, and I don't know why it is done on a purely partisan basis. I should ask the Arizona Democratic Party on that one. Another one is regarding ballots initiatives. Make sure that the title of the ballot is clear, and it is also in the subject name. Because I think it's pretty important that people at a very simple glance should be able to know what you're voting on and what the options are. So I think this is a really good idea, and I'm surprised that it hasn't been a thing in the past. Another one regarding taxation. So property tax exemptions, the only thing it does is it consolidates, and I've checked it myself. It changes Section 2 of Article 9 from 64 lines to just 6 or 17. And the lower the amount of lines is, the better it is for the people to be able to know what's going on. So I think this is a brilliant idea. Prop 131, this is the creation of the office of the Lieutenant Governor. Arizona is one of the few states that doesn't have a Lieutenant Governor. And now they will. And it will be a joint ticket, like many other states, instead of individual races, like in North Carolina. It will be the same thing as Virginia and Maryland and Florida. So, a joint ticket. Proposition 132. This is requiring a supermajority to pass a ballot measure instead of just a simple majority, but only if it is a measure regarding taxation. This is the kind of ballot initiative that I would approve of. I don't think a simple majority is okay when it comes to spending other people's money. I think it should be a unanimous vote and not be on that regard, but you can't all unanimously agree on something, so this is the next best thing. Proposition 209, this is a signature requirement. It's raising debt limits for healthcare services and collection. So basically, it limits the interest rate on debt accrued to healthcare. It increases the amount of property that is exempt from tax collection for debt collection on property, on housing, on monetary collection, on pretty much everything. I wouldn't be fair if I only put the positives in here. The negatives I'm also going to mention. If this passes, it would make effectively more than half the population of the state untouchable for debt collection. And if people are untouchable for debt collection, you can assure that no loans will be given anymore. So that's going to be very bad for mortgages and, in this case, also healthcare. So nobody's going to give you money if you need a surgery. So you're going to be more reliant on crowdfunding after this one. I realized that the title this one wrong is going to be probably going to be Prop 210. I'm going to double check and I'm going to make sure in the comments that I've assured with that it's the correct one. Campaign finance disclosure. This is a fun one because this is typically the Democrat thing of get rid of dark money. And the only way you can do that, according to Democrats, is to make sure that you dox yourself if you donate. Why? It doesn't change anything. So a better way of getting rid of dark money would be to say that an individual can only donate the money if they are an Arizona resident. Which means that you would be able to require paperwork to do such a thing. You can combine it with a voter registration. So you can only donate if you show them your voter registration number. And you can only get those if you are an Arizona resident. I think that would be a much better way to combat dark money. Then again, my intelligence is probably about 40 points higher than the average Democrat, so hashtag humble brag. Proposition 308. This one is in-state tuition for non-citizen residents. Basically, if you are not an American and you live in Arizona, you need to have attended public schooling in Arizona for at least 2 years. You need to have graduated from public, private or home school in Arizona, and you can receive tuition for university. Effectively, non-Americans can get an education in the state of Arizona, paid for by the American taxpayer. So I don't know why anyone would vote in favor of this, but apparently the entirety of the Arizona Democratic Party and all the rhinos in the Republican Party think this is a good idea. I wonder why. Proposition 309. Voter identification requirement for in-person voting and mail-in ballots. Long story short, if you want to vote in person, you have to show an ID. So, passport, driver's license, that kind of stuff. If you want to vote by mail, you need to add the date of birth and document number of your driver's license or government-issued ID card to the requested ballot. Kind of obvious, in my opinion. I think mail-in voting shouldn't be a thing in the first place, but that's just me, apparently. This passed among party lines, so basically it was 31 Republicans in the Senate of the total of 60 seats, so it was like a narrow margin on both ends. I wonder why Democrats are opposed to voter ID. It has probably everything to do with the previous election. Hint, hint. Good news for those that are, like myself, very much Best way to phrase it would be enthusiastic about voter integrity. This is going to pass with an easy margin. So Arizona will be one of the 35 states that has voter ID. Proposition 310. This is creating a sales tax to provide for fire districts. So yeah, this is kind of obvious. It is a bailout for poorly functioning districts, and this was passed by partisan lines once again. So it's a yeah, just kind of government bailout, status quo in American financial world. State of Colorado. Governor's election, Senate election, House elections, and ballot measures. Governor Jared Polis against Heidi Ganal. Names always bad. So Colorado is one of the few states that is moving rapidly towards the Democratic side, mostly from Californian refugees going to Denver. Safe victory for Jared Polis. Nothing much to say. Michael Bennet currently is leading by about 8 points. And yeah, I think that would be actually on the money. 8-point victory for him. John O'Day is running a horrible campaign. So there is no chance in hell that this guy is going to win. First district, this is Denver. Diana DeJet. Easy victory. Second one, Joni Goose. This is Northern Colorado. Easy victory for the guy. Third district, Lauren Boebert. Easy victory for her. So she can enjoy another term in Congress, and next time around I don't think it's going to even be a likely seat. It's going to be like a D plus 30 or an R plus 30 seat. So this side of the state is rapidly moving in the Republican direction. So it's never going to be another swing state again, unless the Democrats decide to redistrict it in such a way that it is. Fourth district, Ken Buck. This is the eastern side of the state. Easy victory. Fifth one, Doug Lamborn. This is Colorado Springs. Heavily Republican area. Safe victory for him. Sixth district. This is another Denver district. Jason Crow. Easy victory, more than 20 points. Seventh district. This is the only Democrat leading district. Earl Perlmutter is retiring, and Brittany Patterson is gonna succeed him. Probably about a 7-point margin in which she's gonna win. The new district, the eighth one, is some Denver suburbs. Barbara Kirkmeyer against Yadira Caraveo. Currently, Kirkmeyer is leading by about 3 points. I think it's a little underestimating her performance. I think it's probably going to be about R plus 4. And we'll see in next cycle how it's going to swing. So it's a split delegation in the House, and 2 Democrats in the Senate, and a Democratic governor. 11 ballot measures. First one is creating a new judicial district. Basically, what is the 18th district exists of 4 counties, and 3 of them will be split off. So Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln County will be the 23rd district, which is about 390,000 people, and Arapahoe County will be the remainder, 650,000. So it's basically eastern Denver will have a separate district. Next one, homestead exemption for surviving spouses. Basically, property tax exemption for the spouses of veterans, in the case that the veteran is either disabled or if he died in the line of duty. Again, why is this not a thing? I already said this previous video with Louisiana. I'm surprised that this is not a thing in every single state. Amendment F, charitable gaming measure. Basically, it decreases the amount of time that an organization needs to exist in order to have a gaming license. So instead of 5 years, it is now 3 years. It reduces income tax deductions for school meals. Effectively, those earning more than $300,000 will get a significant tax hike to pay for school meals. I think that schools shouldn't provide meals. I think the parents should. I think the kids should just make a lunch packet at home, and the teachers should do their fucking job and make sure that bullying is being stopped, so these meals aren't being stolen from one another. But that's just me, I guess. Next amendment is income tax oath requirements. Basically, is reforming the income tax brackets. And any new tax introduced in the state of Colorado will need to indicate what each tax bracket is going to pay for it. I think this is a stupid idea, because all forms of taxations, in my opinion, are theft. Proposition 121 is reducing the income tax in the state by 0.15%. I don't know if anyone is going to vote no on this. If you are, you're an idiot. And in my opinion, it's not radical enough. It should be reduced by about 4.5%. But that's probably just me. Proposition 122. This is decriminalization of various, I would say, medium grade drugs like DMT and other shrooms and that kind of stuff. This is like the 4th time they tried it, so I don't expect much. But then again, maybe the influx of Californian weirdness is going to throw this over the edge. Who knows? Proposition 123. This is dedicating the state income tax revenue to housing projects. Basically, 0.1% has to be allocated to this. And there's a bunch of shit named here. You can pause the video if you want to just read it out. I don't want to bother reading it, because we're already reaching half an hour. So, and I still need like 6 more states to discuss. 124, which is expanding the amount of licenses each individual can hold. In the case of liquor license, it actually goes up to unlimited, which is, in my opinion, a stupid idea. Because it would effectively get rid of small bar mass shops regarding liquor licenses, and it would move everything towards the big conglomerates, which is just bad for local industry. Same goes for 125. It allows convenience stores to sell wine and very malt beers. Same story. 126. This is to allow drop-off services for alcohol. Basically, you have services like Flink, I think one of them is, where they deliver groceries to your doorstep. And this would allow alcohol to be delivered to your doorstep by the store itself or third-party providers. And that's actually the last ballot measure for Colorado. I think pretty much every single one of them is going to pass, because that's just how ballot measures are. State of Idaho. Governor race, Senate race, House races, and a few ballot measures. So you have Governor Brad Little. He survived primary against his lieutenant governor, Janice McGeachin, who was Trump endorsed. Little probably going to win, but the guy's kind of a rhino, so I hope that conservative challenger Alan Bunny is actually going to pull this one off, but I doubt it. It's going to be more than 20 points. Easy victory. So I hope Mr. Bunny is going to try and succeed in 2026 to get the governorship. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. 2020, this is Mike Crapo in the Senate. 2022 re-election cycle. Easy victory for this guy. Not much to say. Western Idaho, Russ Fulcher. Easy victory for this man. And then the second one, the eastern side, is Michael Simpson. He's also going to have an easy victory. Not much is going to change. Two measures. One is create legislative authority to call a special session, which is done by a 3/5 vote. So again, this is another attempt to demonopolize the powers. I agree. I endorse this. And the last one is changing income tax. So instead of a gradual tax brackets system, Idaho will have a flat 5.8% income tax, which effectively reduces tax rates for corporations, increases tax rates for most people, and it gives a rebate for couples. So most people at the first year will see a bit of money back, and in the next years they will have an increase in taxes. Then it allocates an additional $400 million into public schooling. State of Montana, there's just 2 House races and a ballot measure. Ryan Zink, this is the new district. This one is actually a lean Republican. I think it's R+14, something like that. So Zink, he's going to win by about 15 to 20 points this time around due to the swing. And next cycle is going to be a little closer, but it's going to be a Republican victory regardless. Second district, Matt Rosendale, easy re-election for this guy. And we have 2 measures, one regarding search warrant for electronic data. Basically, police now can seize electronic data and communications without a warrant. And if this amendment is passed, then you would require a search warrant before accessing these data points. I think this is needed, and I don't know why the Montana Democratic Party is opposing this. Next one is medical care for infants born alive. Basically, if a child during abortion is born alive, it requires the state and the doctors to care for this child. And I think this is a very important thing. It needs to pass in the fight for life. And additionally, it also states that if you fail to provide medical care to a child that's born alive as part of a cesarean section, attempted abortion, or other method, there's a 20-year prison sentence if you fail to provide care. And I think this is great, because I believe that if you refuse to care for a child like this, you should be tried for murder. So this is pretty much on point, and I think this should be a federal law. Nevada. This is also one of the bellwether states this cycle. We have 4 House races, we have a Senate race, governorship, and we have a few ballot measures. So first, Steve Sisolak, incumbent. He's very unpopular. I think he's currently polled at about 44%, something like that. So he's running up against Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo. And the funny part about this is Nevada is one of the few states that actually underestimates Democrat support, albeit very narrowly. This is a perfect example between RCP and 538. Democrat-leaning pollsters have Sisolak winning. Neutral to Republican-leaning pollsters have Lombardo winning. So I'm probably going to lean on the side of caution and say that Lombardo is going to win. And it's going to be about 2 to 5 points. And then depending on how he reigns over the state, it may actually be a wider margin next time around. Lombardo is going to win this one. Don't you worry about that one. Senate race. Catherine Cortez Masto against Adam Laxalt. Laxalt's name is very known in the state because his grandpa also had the Senate seat in like the 1970s. Democrats are underestimated for the seat. 538 has it as a tie. RCP has Laxalt winning. I'm going to go and say that Laxalt is going to win this one. 2 to 5 points. This one, Senate seat, is actually going to lean further to the right than Arizona is. So Blake Masters is probably going to win by like 2 points. And if that is the case, then Laxalt is going to win by 3 to 4. So you need to take that into account. Nevada's first district. This is Eastern Las Vegas. Dina Titus, she is currently holding. The seat is actually swimming significantly towards the Republican side. And this is a typical example of gerrymandering, where you take a safe Democrat seat and you make it a swing seat. Because why? Titus is leading by polling in 538 by about 6 points. RGP is as a toss-up. I'm going to believe RGP on this one. And I'm going to treat it as a pure toss-up. Second district, Mark Amadei. This is actually the only district that has a clear partisan leaning. And it's going to be a safe Republican victory for this cycle around. Going to be about 15 points. 15 to 16 point. Low end of the margin here. Nevada's third. This is Henderson and the southwestern part of Las Vegas. Went from R+5 to D+2, so it's a more Democrat leaning seat. Again, I'm going to treat it as a toss-up. Susie Lee is... She has a little more than 50-50 shot of winning, but that's all I'm going to give her. I'm going to err on the side of caution on this one. Stephen Harsford, this is a central part of Nevada. It went from an R+1 to D+5. Again, I think it's a pure toss-up for this one. So we have a flip on the governorship, we have a flip on the Senate, and we have one safe Republican seat and 3 toss-ups, with a split delegation in the Senate. And that's all I can make for it. So this is definitely a state that I will revisit in 2 weeks. Ballot measures, we have 3. We have one for the Equal Rights Amendment. Basically, it prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, disability, and ancestry. What I do want to point attention to is that they deliberately left political affiliation out of this, which means that you, in the state of Nevada, after passing this, you still can be discriminated against because of your partisan vote. You need to take that into account when you vote on this in November. Number 2. This is a minimum wage improvement. This is partisan lines again with the Democrats doing this. Same thing with the first question. It increases the minimum wage from $11 to $12, which is barely noticeable. But the one thing that is going to be noticeable is that the inflation adjustment is removed from the minimum wage. And considering that you have an 8% inflation at the moment, that $1 is going to disappear very, very quickly. Namely, if I increase $11 by 10%, you have $12.10. So the inflation adjustment would already be $12, regardless of whether this amendment passes or not. You need to know that. And this is something that's not going to be told to you. The other one, this is going to be... well, they call it a ranked choice voting system, but I'm going to make a different name for this, and I'm going to call this the Let's Fuck Up the Election Even More amendment. Basically, it creates an open primary in which the top 5 people advance to the general election. Why? Why would you do such a stupid thing? Like, really? You know, I'm going to sound like a fucking boomer on this one, but I know that you're an old guard person if you think that the announcement or the results of an election should be there on the night itself. I know it's a boomer take. I know I'm probably going to be in a minority on this one. Nah, just kidding. Pretty much 99% of all people agree on this one. If you have an election night, the results should be available at the end of the night, and we don't want the bullshit in Alaska where 2 weeks later you're going to announce that someone won. Nobody likes that. Why is this even a thing? So, I guess Nevada's going to screw itself even further, and I'm going to have to fix it at some point. New Mexico, governor, house races and ballot measures. Governor, Michelle Grisham, Luan Grisham against Mark Ronchetti. Republicans are underestimated in this race, but then again, even if you adjust for it, Grisham is leading by 7. I think it's going to be a narrow victory because Mark Marchetti is an electoral juggernaut and he does overperform. You need to take that into account. So I think it's going to be a narrow victory. It's not going to be a flip. I doubt that. And if that's going to be the case, then we'll have to figure out what my punishment for that is going to be. 3 House races. This one is for Albuquerque. It moved a little bit more towards the Republican column, and this is another case of dummy mandering in my opinion. Now it's going to be an easy victory for Stansbury, but what happens if Albuquerque starts to vote slightly more to the Republicans? And then suddenly you find yourself that this district is going to be a narrow victory, or even a swing district. So this is a really dumb way of doing it. All in the case of try to get rid of that Republican district. Speaking of that Republican district, the second one, Southern New Mexico. R+14 to D+4, Yvette Hurrell. Shown by about 7 points last time around. She's leading narrowly, and I think it's going to be a narrow victory for her this time around. I think the national environment will prove that she wins, and let's see if this stays true. Third district, Northern New Mexico, D+14 to D+5. This is another idea of dummy mandering. Teresa Fernandez. She's currently leading by about 14 points, I think. It's going to be a little bit less than that, and we'll find out in the future if it actually is going to be swing state or swing seat. Probably, actually. Few ballot measures. The first one is early childhood programs. Basically, land-grant permanent fund will be allocated, or will be increased a little bit, and these funds, the increase will be used to invest in education. The second one is authorizing funds for residential services infrastructure, basically internet, energy, water, wastewater, and that kind of stuff. So it creates an additional exemption in the anti-donation clause. The third one, appointed judge elections. Basically it says that before you are eligible for an election in the state of New Mexico, you have to serve at least 1 year after appointment. The fourth one is the senior citizens facility bond. Basically allocates nearly $25 million to improve retirement facilities across the state. And it also, I think on the ballot also has a little bit of a list on it to say which areas are going to get what amount of money. Same thing goes for the public libraries, about $20 million. And you also get a list on which library gets what funding. And the same thing goes for education, more than $200 million investment in education. I think it's funny that they're just going to say, okay, we're going to give X million dollars to this school, but they don't dare to say what the investment is. I wonder why. Second to last, the state of Utah. House race, Senate race, and ballot measures. So for the Senate, Mike Lee is running for re-election against Evan McMullin. And before you comment, I know he's running as an independent, but if an independent gets the endorsement from the Democratic Party, I'm going to treat you as a Democrat. Same thing with Bernie Sanders. Next time around, I'm going to write him down as a Democrat, so shut up about it. Mike Lee is currently leading and polling about 12. And it's going to be that going to be the kind of margin it is. Evan McMullin is well known in the state, but it's not going to be good enough for him to run as a Democrat to win, because the Democrats are hated in the state of Utah. First seat, easy victory for Blake Moore. Second seat, easy victory for Chris Stewart. This one is going to be less than 20, but more than 15. John Curtis, easy victory, more than 20 points. Burgess Owens over at Salt Lake City. Easy victory for the guy. The seat has swung heavily towards the Republican column, so he's going to be re-elected. And there's one ballot measure regarding budgets, and it's increasing the Utah state legislature, the funds that they can collect in an emergency session, from 1% of the previous year's budget to 5% of the previous year's budget. Yeah, so suddenly I can't speak anymore, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Luckily, it's the shortest state on the list. It's Wyoming. Governor, House race, and a ballot measure. Mark Gordon, easy victory. Harriet Hageman, she beat Liz Cheney by 40 points. It was funny to watch. Brilliant, love it. She's gonna win easily, and we're gonna laugh because this is effectively a flip for the Republican Party. Two ballot measures. The first one is government stock investment. Currently, there's a prohibition for counties and cities to invest in equities. They want to remove it. Sure, why not? And another one is to increase the retirement age from 70 to 75, because apparently there are not enough judges in the state of Wyoming. So this is it for today. The next ninth part is going to be about the Pacific region. Like the video if you did. Subscribe if you want more content like this. I'm going to do plenty of more stuff for the foreseeable future. Leave your thoughts below. What can I improve? What should I improve? If there's anything that you want to see, that kind of stuff. Share if you think this information is vital. That's of course a good idea. And thank you kindly for watching. Cheers.